to UV map this, let's tab into edit mode, and I think we're going to want to create a seam. Ultimately, this thing is going to be turning, so anywhere we put a seam is going to be seen at some point, but I'll go ahead and just add one down here at the bottom. Let's press Control E and mark seam. And let's check if the scale's been applied. It has not, so let's press Control A and apply the scale. So now let's just hit A, U, and unwrap. And here we go. Well, it's okay, but not great. Let's change to conformal. That's a little better, but I'm not really liking the warping we're getting, especially at the seams. Let's put a test pattern on there. I'll hit Z and go to Look Dev. And right down here, you can really see that we're getting that warping around the seams at each of the ends here. Now, we can go in and we could straighten each one of these. We could go to Edge Mode, Alt-click an edge here, and we could straighten this by right-clicking and choosing Align X, and that'll straighten that, right? So we could go through and do each and every one of these, all the verticals and then all the horizontals. But that really doesn't sound like all that much fun, so let's Control Z back and undo those. Now, there is another form of UV unwrapping that we haven't tried yet, and it's called Follow Active Quads. So what it does is it actually looks at the last polygon selected. So anytime you have a selection of multiple things in Blender, the last thing you select is called the active. So if I selected, say, let me go to face mode. If I deselected a face here and then reselected it, you can see it's kind of a different color. That means that's the active quad. So now if I press U and go to Follow Active Quads, you can see that it says it follows the UVs from active quads along continuous face loops. Well, that kind of sounds like what we want here. Let's give this a try. I'll click here and click OK. And wow, that's really not at all what we'd hoped for, huh? So the unusual thing about Follow Active Quads is that it doesn't look at this active quad here in the 3D view. It looks at it over here in the UV editor. So let's press Control Z. And if I deselect this and turn on UV Sync and select this again, here it is. And as you can see, it isn't exactly rectangular, and it's kind of turned, right? It's kind of at an angle. And so what it's doing is it's taking the shape and angle of this one quad and then extending those properties through the whole thing. And that's why we got that weirdly shaped, angled thing. What we need to do is figure out a way to get this quad to be more rectangular the way it is here in the 3D view. So what we can do is let's turn off UV Sync here. And here's that one quad, that one face. Let's hit the A key and let's just UV unwrap this here. In the UV editor with that selected, I'll just press U and there it is. Now that looks pretty good, right? That looks fairly rectangular. Now, if yours isn't, if you say maybe it looks like this or like this, right? That's okay. We can go ahead and use that Align X that we looked at before. We can right click and, well, since this is a horizontal one, let's use Align Y. And we can select this and Align Y. And then we can select this edge here and Align X. Maybe let's do this one as well here. There we go. Now if we select it all and select UV and Pack Islands, it'll pack it into that 0 to 1 space. So we can use our Align X and Align Y. It's just, we're just doing it on only one face, only one quad, rather than the whole thing. So now that we've got this one face more uniformly laid out, now what we can do, let's select everything over here. I can press Shift and click that, and Shift and click it again to make sure that that is the active quad. Now let's press U and choose Follow Active Quads, and click OK. Now we're getting something a little bit better. It doesn't try and put it into that 0 to 1 space here, but it does lay it out very nicely. So let's hit the A key and go to UV and Pack Islands, and then I'll hit the period key, and there it is. So now let's take a look at these. These look a little bit better. They're still going to be a little squished here on the sides, but our main concern is up here where the treads are. And those look pretty good. So, what have we done here? Why have we done this? Well, we're going to take this and apply the high poly information here. I'll unhide that right here. We're going to apply this high poly information, all this detail, to the low poly object in a normal map. And I'd like to do that in Substance Painter. But before we do that, in the next video, let's go ahead and organize all of our UV maps and get them arranged within the 0 to 1 space here, just like we did with the machine gun. So what we'll be doing is we'll be coming back to the vehicle main here and organizing all of these and cleaning these up. So that's coming up next.